Hi, I'm TD Dierker. You know, it really isn't what happened to us that matters. What matters is what we started telling ourselves and believing about ourselves as a result.
Welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we explore what comes after career. Real conversations about transitioning from the 9-to-5 grind to your next great adventure. Whether you're heading into retirement or simply redefining what purpose means, we're here to inspire, inform, and help you reimagine what's next. This isn't the end of the road. It's the start of something new. Adam and Dale, today on the Redirect Podcast, we're going to man up. All right, guys, I'm going to ask you to man up. So my question is to you is this. Is your outside image consistent with who you are on the inside?
I grew up with a mother and 4 sisters, and my inside, I think I'm really pretty honest, and I'm a vulnerable type. It's one of my characteristics is being vulnerable, because I kind of lived that through my growing up with sisters and growing up with women, strong women in my life, you know, and that has really kind of made me very kind of proud of the fact that I believe what I am inside, I'm projecting to the outside.
I would say yes and no. Yes, in the regard that what I say, I mean. If I tell you something, I'm telling you the truth as best as I understand it. So in that regard, I am authentic. What comes out is what is honestly on the inside. Also, I think there's some things that I really work hard to throttle and to put forward the best image possible. And so, I don't know. I look forward to this conversation today to discover whether or not I'm just normally considerate of what comes out, or am I in some ways inauthentic?
I have both, like you, Adam. I started to carry this image of what a guy should be from what I see in the movies and some of the things but one thing my father always taught me at a very early age, and that's going back to your comment, is integrity. Yeah. And that my word is my word.
Is the Curt of today different than the Curt in your 30s?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Because the culture was dictating what I needed to be, that scaffolding thing again. And I was living up to what I perceived a man should be. Strong. I'm moving forward on this. This is my thing. I got to pursue this. I got to accomplish this. I got to make this thing happen. And inside, dealing with anxiety, dealing with pressure, dealing with how do I deal with this? Oh my gosh, I don't like being confrontational. I just said something confrontational, and I'm going to get out of it. So that 30-year-old was that guy, but now I have this piece in me that I can deal with it, and I can speak freely from it.
And that happened when?
I would probably say when I was 48, 50 years old.
I think we've got somebody chomping at the bit here to get in on this conversation.
Yes.
So why don't we introduce our friend of the Redirect Podcast today, Thomas, or TD Dierker. TD is devoted husband, dedicated father of 7 children, and author of his debut book AWOL, the founder of Made for More Media. For 30 years on the outside, TD viewed himself as a successful, respected, financially stable, corporate executive, and a loving family man. On the inside, TD was hungry, searching, and wanting more from life. Despite his outward success, TD didn't feel authentic. Through TD's journey of self-reflection and discovery, he began connecting with other men and discovered similar discontentedness. Many were trying to outrun past failures or experiences that they were afraid to face. TD believes that men feel pressure to do something that the culture wants us to be. As a result, far too many men fall short of being emotionally present for themselves and others. His mission is to better understand, document, and influence the dangerous standard that has been set for men. TD has big plans in sharing transformative insights to elevate and inspire others to embark on their own paths of authenticity and healing. TD, welcome to the Redirect Podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, TD, you've done a lot of things. Tell us quickly your story. Where was that point in your life where you redirected yourself from that corporate world to going out there and sort of being on a mission for men?
Yeah, it would jump quickly through lots of important steps that we don't have time to get into. But I would say that I had this preferential view into the lives of very successful men. And what didn't matter if it was business or personal, church-related, high school reunions. These men would come to me and we'd get to talking, and just a few minutes in, they'd say, I don't know why I'm telling you this. I've never told anybody this before. And it wasn't take it to the grave stuff, but it was close. And I got this sense that early in my career, and it was validated 1,000 times, is that the outsides and the insides rarely matched. There were these super successful men that were struggling, feeling like they were coming up short in important areas of their life. They were struggling with their own, what I would say is, call it what you want, their own imprint. People call it a wound. Nobody gets out of their childhood alive. Nobody. It doesn't matter what anybody tells you. We all get marked in our childhood. And we all walk around acting as though we weren't marked. And I just noticed that over time. And I just said to myself, wait a minute. This turned from a hunch into something I was clear about and something I was very comfortable talking about. And I choose to go there. And I think a lot of people don't choose to go there. And it's, men love the psychological air you give them. You give men psychological air, they start breathing. They're breathing out of one lung. They're breathing out of the success lung. And they're not breathing out of this lung of their human experience. I would just jump right in and say, what you say and what you do comes from what you feel. Most men won't argue with this. What you feel comes from what you're thinking about. What you're thinking about comes from what you believe. And what you believe comes from your human experience. It's in your memory. So if you want to change what you say and do, you got to go back into the memory, and you have to reform those memories. And most men I'm not going back. Dude, it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't a thing. It's 30 years ago. What am I going to do about it? My dad did the best he could. I've heard all of those lines and say, if you don't want to go back and unpack it, then the kryptonite is just going to disable you.
So what you're basically saying is that there are things that happened earlier in our life that imprinted on us to sort of set up who we are, and we're not dealing with it. It's there, but we don't talk about it.
And it is a contributive factor. It's not the only factor. So Men don't multitask. So we raise a big family at home. And the difference between my wife and I is she can be painting the kitchen. She can be on the phone with school. She can be making breakfast. And she can be helping my daughter do her toenails. And I'm putting bread in the toaster.
So we refer to that as waffle squares and spaghetti. You navigate the waffle squares, right? I live in one square at a time, and that's it.
And if the kids speak up, I say, dude, do you realize what Dad's trying to do here? I'm making toast.
I'm bringing something to this table.
But I'm doing it really well.
And I do think there is 92% of 9/11 operators are women. There is something different about men and women, and we don't multitask well. So there's just a lot of, so what I say, it's contributive. It's not the only thing. Men love to go after work because it's single-minded. They get there.
It's conquering.
And it's that too.
Yeah.
But it helps us with our ADD. It helps us with our inability to get focused. So I just think there's a lot of things contributing, but there's definitely, something significant preventing men from going back. And if you choose to not go back, you're missing the richness that the past provides you.
Let me play devil's advocate on that, because as a proud Gen Xer, as a guy who I'm a victim and a warrior of where I grew up, and I'm sometimes proud of it. I'm occasionally ashamed of it. I sometimes hurt over it, but most of the time it was a lot of fun. And that idea of rubbing dirt in it, that's metaphoric, but there's a lot of inherent immediate repression of things you don't want to deal with. And how specifically? Why is it important to go get those things that maybe you're dragging around and don't realize? And forgive me, help me restate this if I don't ask this question well. Why is it important to go get that stuff, deal with it, and and put it in the best light now?
I think madness comes, and put madness in air quotes, but I think madness comes from losing touch with your story. When you start puzzling pieces together that don't fit, but you're going to jam them in. Your story is unique and important and valuable, and it's what has created you into the special person you are and what you're going to bring to the world. And if you're out of touch with your story, if you've blocked parts of that story, you've missed key learnings. And as I said before, it's the GPS. You don't know it, but at 8, you plugged in coordinates. You're going to be the class clown. You can't be too successful. You're not going to speak up because someone's going to make fun of what you say, or you've got to stutter. I mean, make a list. There's 1,000. I've heard 10,000 of them by now. And those things, I think, hold us back from being the authentic and significantly impactful person that we can be. Because the GPS is set. We're on the plane to Minnesota, and we say to ourselves, we didn't even freaking want to go to Minnesota. Somebody else set the GPS. I'm saying, no, give guys back the pen and paper, take their story back, and start writing a new story. And you can't, or you shouldn't, in my opinion, write a story until you know what your freaking story is. It's that important. And once you do it, I mean, I'm telling you this. I bought a car when I was young. I remember it was a 1992 Camry. It had this coolest thing that CD popped out, and it had these like special locks. I thought it was the coolest thing. And I took it around and showed people. It was my first new car, actually. And by the third person I was showing them this new car, I was tired of telling the story. You know, I stopped doing it. And what I think is interesting about it is human nature is we don't tell the bad stuff, we tell the good stuff. And if you tell the bad stuff, it eventually loses its power. What happened to me as a kid has zero power over me when it used to have power over me. And I just really think that when you can be free of that, when you can put it in context and you can actually say, no, all of that made me into this uniquely talented, tempered guy that has the ability to be with billionaires. I've been with 3 of them, and nearly all of them had said the same thing. I was caught in a rainstorm for 3 hours adjacent to Ralph Lauren's farm out in Telluride, Colorado. And I heard this guy say to me, he said, I don't know why I'm telling you this, you know, and the freedom that came from that, the sense of like being loved despite that, or really being loved because of that, puts it in a completely different light. It wasn't something that was done to you. It turns out it was something that was done for you. And the power's gone, and you can access it, and it can live on in you in a way that's immeasurably important for you and your family.
So even though it is viewed in your mind potentially as a negative part of your life, don't let it hold you back. Look at it as what this has done for me in my life, and then dealing with it internally. It's not like I'm going into a therapy session and I have to go back and lay on a couch and tell that my mom was, this and my dad was that. It's like, no, this was said to me, or this is what I've done, being the class clown, for example.
Yeah.
But that creates a humor aspect in me. Use it as a positive in order to make me, as opposed to something that's going to be holding me back. Am I getting?
And what a disservice it's done for men. Like, even when you mention you're not going to have to go back on the couch, and like it's even the way we portray going back, it's so negative. And it's like when you realize it's the GPS, when you realize that like someone plugged in coordinates and you're headed there, and you're sitting there and you're belted in the back seat, and you're like, I don't even know. I can tell we're moving. And it's kind of fast. I can tell when it's hot and cold, but I didn't get to decide where we're going. It's just to me, it's just such important work, and we've minimized it, and we've girlified it, or we've feminized it, or whatever we've done to it. I don't know what the words are, but it's not positive.
But isn't today's culture suggesting that men need to go to therapy because they have to be able to relate to who they are inside, and that therapist is the one to bring it out of them as opposed to themselves being able to deal with it?
Potentially. I'm not smart enough to do all the math on that. I'm just saying that there's nothing left to do but go to therapy. If men would do this work, therapists would be out of business. Because really,
for the men category,
really, you just want men to be able to say, like, this happened to me, and I validate it, and I see it, and it's okay, and I love you despite, and it wasn't your fault that you were molested. You were at the wrong place at the wrong time. But look at what's come of it. Look at who you are now. Look at the beautiful person that you are, and this family that you've raised, and this business that you run, and this football team that you lead. You know, they say that 1 in 4 women have been sexually molested, and 1 in 7 men. That means, we got 5 people in this room. We're close to having a guy, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're only as sick as our secrets, and men are taught to kind of like
Push them under the rug.
work on the outside, get the outside to look good, get everybody to affirm you, get the position at work, get the big salary. Our dads ask us, he's killing it at work, man. He's killing it at work. Like, we're more than work. We've gone all in. We've got an undiversified portfolio. We're all in on our career. And it's not serving men. It's not serving their wives. It's not serving their children. And it's not serving society. Men and fathers are just too stinking important. And most of us are AWOL. Most men are AWOL. The fight's going on, and they're hiding under the bed.
Can I make an observation for our audience? If our audience is pre-retirement
Yep.
and retirement, all of a sudden, when you've been on that treadmill and you've got time to think and open, all of a sudden, isn't that the time when you're talking about a lot of the stuff is coming back? All of a sudden, it's not gone. You could have buried it. We bury it, and we talk about compartmentalizing all this stuff. But it's that at that point is when all of a sudden, when you have COVID hit, people had more time to think because they weren't standing in TSA lines.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a time when all of a sudden your self-reflection becomes that moment when either you deal with it or you don't?
Yeah, life is moving at hyper speeds. I mean, just moving, right? And if you can slow down, I mean, that alone is the medicine that most men can't find, is 10 minutes alone. A really, really famous psychologist said most men's neuroses come from his inability to sit in a dark room alone for 10 minutes. It's truth.
Yeah.
You talk to a guy yesterday, his wife's got stage 4 breast cancer. She's got 8 weeks to live. His faith life. I said, do you ever sit alone? Do you ever sit alone and just talk to God? He says, I never do. I can't stop. I can't sit still. Mm-hmm. It's the easiest thing. It's the easiest answer. It's the one that nobody can commercialize. No one can monetize you taking time alone. Yet no man avails himself to it. Statistically, no man avails himself to it. Even when they go to prayer, they take 6 books and, they're diving through the Word and they're listening to podcasts and they're doing everything else. And it's like, just quiet your body and let your soul emerge. No one's taught men how to do it, so therefore they don't know how to do it.
My dad died when I was 14. He was 74. Wow. He had a debilitating stroke when I was 12. My mom wasn't always a good person. And when I tell my story, which isn't very often, but when I tell my story, it usually wraps up with, I made some really, really bad choices. And there are things I'm not proud of, things that I will take to the grave. I've told no one. And those are all the outcomes of my choices are my own. They're not what came from my choices are not caused by what happened to me, around me, or for me. The outcome of my choices are because of my choices. And that's usually where I finish the story, because I often feel like Curt, I'm an intense fella. When I share intensely. I don't do anything at 9. I usually do a lot at about 10 and 11 and beyond. So I don't know half speed. And so when it comes to getting authentically honest with people around me, it comes out super intense. It comes out off-putting. It comes out painful. And I don't always do a good job at... I enjoy being vulnerable. I really do. I don't mind it at all. I'll tell anybody who chooses to listen about, but people around me usually struggle with my authenticity, which means, am I the problem in that? And so I've got a lot of that stuff that's unprocessed because I don't know how to share it. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes causes problems.
Well, it's important to know your audience, all of us. We should know that. Not everybody's entitled to our story. And our story is not safe with a lot of people. It's important to know that. I would say that for starters. I would say that on a deep level, we don't miscommunicate. I believe it. I know that about you when I met you. I know that you've got to take it to the grave stuff. I might not be conscious of it, but I believe that we are so connected and we are so on a deep level, we don't miscommunicate with each other. And when that stuff gets out, now you're free to really authentically communicate. You know, I had a brother who had some really unprocessed information. He came across at 60,000 volts, and he burned everyone's transformer out. And if he had just recognized what his story was and got it right-sized, it would have no longer taken stage in every conversation he went to. And you say, you've got this take it to the grave stuff, and I would just encourage you, it's maybe not appropriate on the show, but do not die with take it to the grave stuff.
Why?
I had 3.
Why?
The freedom it gives you. Like, you believe that it's take it to the grave when it's one of 8 things.
Yeah.
The way we do it is one of 8 things. I can tell you, there's 8 ways that guys marginalize something as take it to the grave. I remember the guy that I first talked to. He was a holy guy that spent a lot of time with me, and I had this take it to the grave stuff. There was these 3 things that happened to me in my youth that I was never going to tell anybody. And I met with him for like 4.5 hours, and at the end of it, you know what he said? What was the take it to the grave stuff? I was like, oh, it was this.
You missed 4.5 hours.
It was this. It was this. He's like, that's not take it to the grave stuff. That's the young kid that didn't know any better. Yeah. You know, and it's just the freedom that gave me to recognize I could turn the page and that didn't define me. I didn't have to hide, lose, or prove anything. The freedom that gives you and the space it opens up on your hard drive to actually process information and not project and not to be looking as though what she said is about me. What she said was about her, but when I was listening, I thought it was about me because I had this stuff inside of me. And now I can really be there for Dale because I'm not looking for Dale to fix me. If something I say, I think it's really, really profound, is that, if you guys are familiar with the movie Jerry Maguire,
Oh, yeah.
I can't
Show me the money.
I can't speak without talking about movies.
I love it. My man.
Okay. So there's this elevator scene where these folks come on and they're disabled. I think they're either hearing or speech disabled. I forget which, but they sign this thing that you complete me. And it's this Hollywood myth that I'm a fraction. I'm going to meet this woman and she's a fraction, and we're going to get married, and we're going to become a whole number. And what I say to guys is like, in 5th grade, you learned that doesn't work. Because when you multiply fractions, they get smaller.
They divide. Yeah.
They get smaller.
Right.
And this idea, like what I want men to do and what I try to do, and you guys started the show talking about you wanted to man up. There is always the inclination, my page has been bent. There's always the inclination to pose for me. I was with someone yesterday, I was retelling the story about a rodeo my family went to, and we won a $50 thing that was shot out of the clown's thing. He sent it to my son in a crowd of 3,000. And for a second, I wanted to say it was a $100 bill. Why did I want to say that? Like, why? And I saw myself wanting to build the story into more than it was, and to continually recognize that I've got this inclination to pose and say to myself, I'm never posing again. It shows up. It's like a guy that says, I'm not going to drink again. The desire to drink sometimes is, mystically goes away, but sometimes it doesn't. And you just say, I'm never posing again. I'm showing up as me every time, all the time. I'm enough. It feels so good to be me and to be authentic and not have to remember what I said. So I just encourage you to recognize that the freedom that comes with it, the ability to produce, the distraction it is to you unconsciously, to manage the hard drive space that's holding up. You can't measure it. I'm just telling you it's there, and I'm encouraging you to get free of it.
I think this would be a good time to take a quick break. If you're enjoying our show, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to comment. And if you like what you're hearing, leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback not only makes our day, but helps other listeners discover our content. Your support through listening, sharing, following, and reviewing means the world to us and helps our podcast grow. Thanks so much for being part of the Redirect family. So let's now get back to our conversation. Our friend Jerry Rushing, who we've had on here, I asked him once, when do you have to recognize something is wrong in your conscience? And he says, when it keeps coming back.
Mm.
When you need to deal with it, if you're thinking about it daily or weekly, which I thought was brilliant, because then it's in your hard drive. It's not until the point where you do something about it that you can become free of it.
Your processor is bogged down. You can't process. Everything is about you. You don't even know it. I wasn't aware of it. Parker Palmer is this great. Have you ever read the book Let Your Life Speak?
Mm-mm.
His name is Parker Palmer. He does this great story about where he said when he was in his 30s, his subconscious was tapping him on the shoulder. And then when he was in his 40s, it was beating him about the knees and the thighs. And when his 50s, it sent an atom bomb into his life. And he said he recognized afterwards that all it wanted to do was have me turn around and say, what do you want? And until it threw the atom bomb, I never turned around and said to my life, what do you want? Powerful. That's what I'm getting at.
Appreciate that.
So your book, AWOL.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you name it AWOL?
I think I was absent without official leave. That's the term. It's a military term. I feel like I was absent without official leave from my own life. At a point in time, I want to say it was 10 or 11 or 12, I got the message that it wasn't safe to be me. There was a couple of things that happened to me as a young person, mostly through laughter, ridicule, and name-calling. And name-calling is powerful. They say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I mean, who the heck coined that? Words are powerful.
Somebody who was good at repressing things.
Somebody who had taken to the grave stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, I read your book.
Yeah.
And you tell a story of yourself.
Yeah.
When you were a young kid, 6 years old.
I think I was a little older, but close, yes, 6 or 7, yeah.
Looking at the picture of Adolf Hitler.
On the front page of Time magazine.
Yeah. And that, what happened amongst your family and retelling that story sort of made you feel differently, which then impacted the way you performed at school.
Yeah. The Jets were on. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I asked my dad if Hitler was the first man on earth. I mean, he looked that old. I mean, like to my little mind, it was a black and white photo, and the guy looked archaic, and I asked the question, and then everybody laughed. And then at dinner that night, we sat down. We had a huge family. I come from a family of 8, and there was always friends in the house, too, so there was like a table for 16, and somebody brought up what Tommy said and brought up this Hitler, and my dad threw his head back, and everyone was laughing. And I remember at that moment in time, something in me was just like, dude, you're going to have to run for cover. It's not safe. And I did. Yeah. And I found 1,000 ways to run for cover.
Yeah. And further on in the story, it affected your school
because
you thought you were dumb.
Totally.
And then all of a sudden there was somebody in college, one of your professors, that recognized that
my English teacher.
You had something good here. And then all of a sudden it wasn't a light switch. It's just the understanding that, no, I am good.
Yeah.
And then you got scholarship money.
Yeah, I went to school. My dad, I think my dad had to use like videos to bribe the guy to let me into school at Xavier. And by the end, of my first year, I'm on a small scholarship, and I graduated on full scholarship. And it was that woman who said to me, you've got a real gift, and I think you're trying to stay small and you're trying to stay hidden, and I don't think it's serving you. And I tell you, definitely, it's not serving me as your teacher. And for whatever reason, I bought the marketing department's message, and I just ran for it. And it was great. It was great. It empowered me in a way that added a trajectory to my life that bumped it up significantly, and it's just super valuable to me. And I try and do that for other people because I recognize it was a throwaway meeting. It was at the end of class. It was a night class. It was 9:05, and it was probably lasted 45 seconds. But I walked out of that classroom a changed man.
It erased years of issues that you had. Wow.
Words may never hurt me. We know that's not true, but words have the ability to inspire and enlighten and empower and transform.
You tell a lot of stories in the book of other people and things that they were dealing with. There was a letter from Ken that I thought was
phenomenal.
Incredible letter.
God, the day it was going to publication, I asked the publisher to stop because I wanted to get the letter in the book.
It was good. It's a good letter.
You inserted it in the right spot.
Yeah, but there's so many different examples in here and so many different things, though, that you state that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
Expound on that a little bit.
We all have our own story, and I've often, wondered how I'm going to most help men, because I'm not a guru, and I don't think my story out and back is going to work for you. Maps are one and done in my mind. There's things you can learn from my story, but your particular and unique set of life circumstances is yours. And what we need to do is we need to get you into your story. And we need to know the parts that you want to change about yourself. Because if you want to change stuff, you're going to have to go back. Because these patterns are so strong. And I think we've been endowed by that by our Creator, because you wouldn't be able to walk across the street if we didn't have these patterns that we rely on, that how we get through life. And it's just, we just don't recognize the ability we have to reset the pattern. I think far too many men, with living a life unobserved, keep themselves getting what they've always got.
To help guys figure out where they are in 4 aspects of life, which, again, your book talks about, in mind,
body, mind, heart, and soul.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You and your son are working on this project called MANSCORE.
Right.
And your description to me about MANSCORE, you related it very simply, because I'm a simple person, as Adam can attest.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Is that when you step on a scale, you see how much you weigh.
Yeah. There's power in that.
Tell me about the MANSCORE and what that's all about.
Yeah, so to say a little bit more about that, like when I step on the scale in the morning, I've got a target weight that I want to be at. And if I start to drift 3 or 4 off, subconsciously I order differently at lunch. I spend more time in the gym. I spend more time in the sauna. I decide to walk that evening because I want to be in this band. And, oddly, standing on the scale is really a terrible measure of your health. Fat weighs less than muscle. I could be fatter than I was before and still be the same weight. But still I step on it. And still it motivates a lot of men. If I'm speaking before a crowd of 300 people and I ask who stepped on the scale this morning, at least a third of the room put their hands up. The thing I believe is that men have no way to step on a scale for the other aspects of their life. I think men's scoreboards are broken, or at least lacking numbers. I say that men's scoreboards have 2 numbers on it: sex and money. Mm-hmm. And when they're 60, it's just money. Mm-hmm. That's not an adequate scoreboard. It's just not enough for men.
And I think for men, most of the things that we're being told are not adding up, and we're always trying to fix that.
I do think that we are physical beings, and if a guy wants to get healthy, body, mind, heart, and soul, I think the body is the best way. There is an aspect of the body that's so valuable. I mean, we are having a physical experience. The Savior of the world was incarnate. I mean, the body is important. And I feel like grace builds on nature. If a guy wants to become more emotionally attuned, I think the best way for him to do that is become physically attuned, to know what his experience is like in his body. It's really, really important. So the scale, the metaphor for the scale was just men can't step on a scale. They can go to their 401k account, or they can go to if they keep a personal balance sheet, they can look at their personal balance sheet. But where does your emotional intelligence show up on your balance sheet, or your relationship with God, or the stuff that's going on between your ears? Like, if you could stop long enough to listen to what's going on between your ears, and I ask guys to keep a journal and start writing the things they hear about themselves. This is a great way of doing it. Get a picture that you're in, a group shot. Maybe it'll happen this weekend. And then look at the picture. The first thing a guy does when he looks at a picture, let's say it's a class reunion. What's the first thing he does, do you think? He finds himself in the picture. That's the first thing a guy does. And then what's the second thing he does? I'll answer it. Oh, man, look at who dressed that guy. He's so fat. Like he looks old. That's not the. It's most of it is stinking negative. Right?
It's critique of that person.
It's a critique of themselves, and it's comparison as well, right? Like I'm not going back to my class reunion. It's just because I can't take it. Last time I went to my class reunion, there was 2 guys on walkers. I was like, wait a minute, there's 2 guys on walkers. It's hard. Life is hard on some of us. You all have children. Mm-hmm. If anyone talked to your kid the way you talk to yourself, you would beat that person back and off of your child. But it's just elevator music. It's just playing in our mind, and no one's writing it down. And then what I say is write it down. And then whose voice is that? Because typically it's not yours. It's a teacher, it's a coach, it's a mom, it's a dad. In my case, it was brothers.
You could trace that back to where its origin, where that negative self-talk started.
And then you just speak back to it. And you're like, shut up. Have you seen like the life I've built right now? You're just, come on. You got better than that. That's not going to impact me. You can start to speak back to it. Nobody speaks back to that negative voice inside of them. And it works. It works when you start speaking back to that voice.
I think it's amazing too when you're looking at your story, TD, the time that we don't take to talk about the things we've achieved, that we've grown from. It's always the negative. It's always this went wrong, and this went wrong, and that went wrong. When I was forced to, I did some counseling after a first marriage I had, and I was forced to say, okay, just write down some of the successes. That was really hard. I mean, we like to project that, but internally, when you're really looking at your story and yourself, where do you go?
I love what you say there. You had me go another way there for just a second, and it's that I love that you're making a list of those successes and you're talking about them. But I also think what we see as successes, one of my greatest successes is when I go downstairs into Jonah's bedroom and I kneel down next to his bed and I say, hey, buddy, what I said to you was unfair, and I feel like I owe you an apology. Will you forgive me? And he'll sit up in bed and say, Dad, I forgive you. So it's really important for you to know that I'm sorry, and I'm going to try better. Like, when do you hear a guy say that? What they talk about is their portfolio or their car or their vacation. Right. They never get past the surface stuff, what I call the extrinsic. The extrinsic value, the scoreboard that's out there. The intrinsic scoreboard is the one I want to keep, and I do think sometimes that's taking the grave stuff. That's between me and me, and that's stuff that I'm really, really proud of. I share that story with Jonah because rarely will you hear a guy talk about that. He'll talk about the stuff that everybody sees. But like how much you muscling back from something that happened to you that nobody even knew. That's powerful and meaningful. And I want to hear about that with men.
Yep.
So in reading all this and seeing you and Adam, this conversation is really, really online for that younger guy, even your son, right?
Yeah.
So a majority of our audience is retired. So how can that retired guy use what you're saying that is not in a corporate or young world anymore? Go.
Yeah. I talked to you about loving movies. Has anyone seen the movie Son of a Woman?
Oh, yeah.
With Al Pacino?
Yep.
Hoo-ha. Yeah. Favorite line in the movie is, I take a flamethrower to this place, but I'm too damn old and I'm too damn tired.
We're renting a car. I'm driving a car. Hoo-ha.
High five in the middle of the table.
That's it.
Okay. What a shame and a travesty for a man to think he's too damn old and too damn tired. Like, you're at the point where you have more power than you've ever had before. You got grown kids? Like, now's the time. Pour into them. Don't ask them what they're doing at work. Ask them what's going on in their body. Ask them what's going on between their ears. Talk to them about their emotions, because most guys don't feel. I know a guy, his wife says, oh, no, Jeff feels 90% of the time. He's feeling. Trouble is, the only thing he feels is anger. And anger isn't even a feeling. It's a secondary emotion.
It's a response.
There's something below that. So getting guys around that idea that I am at the most powerful point in my life right now, and I can bless and change and transform the lives of my kids, the young people in my neighborhood. It's a powerful, powerful time, and most guys spend it, another movie, City Slickers, walking around the mall wondering why the kids don't write. I know a guy, he's not a friend of mine, but his wife was very interested in the work that I'm doing. When he died, he had 100 boxes of unopened shoes, and he had 65 watches that never had the tags taken off in his closet. When he died, you know what she did? Called the Salvation Army. Gave it away. Like, this guy was exchanging his life force for stuff that when he died, it's a misappropriation of resources for men. Most men are misappropriating their resources.
Yeah.
And I would encourage guys that are listening to this, or women that are listening to this that are of that age, is to embrace the power, the superpower they have. Because dads don't lose that power. It doesn't matter how despicable you've been. The dad is so powerful. And I would just say, like, use it for good. Your kids will never forget it. I know my dad lived with us for the last 17 months of his life, and I had a on and off relationship with my dad. You know, he never said he was sorry, and I didn't until I was older, and I'm so glad I went first because it changed my life when I told him that I was sorry. But I was wiping him up after an accident in our house, and he looked at me in the face. He said, you know, you used to be my worst, and now you're my best. And that was really meaningful to me. And it was like the last tumbler in the lock for me. It's like, don't squander that power you have to impact the lives of the people around you, especially the ones that love you, that are going to be crying at your funeral. Don't squander that.
Wow. Big stuff. I wanted this AWOL.
I don't even know that I answered MANSCORE, but
you did.
I love what we're talking about.
You did. I love this. I mean, and we're running out of time here, but we need to have you back because we're just scraping the surface.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to this.
Things here.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the book AWOL, and we're going to promote this very much so that people have an opportunity to get it.
We'll drop links.
But
Great.
in your book here near the end, and I don't want to, it's not a break or anything, but you have a friend that says, TD, how do you know when you are no longer AWOL? All right. And then you said, wow, that's a great question. And then you started thinking about it. A few days later, you responded back in a text to him that said this. When you know with absolute certainty that you wouldn't trade your life for anyone else's, that you wouldn't risk changing a thing about your past because in doing so, you'd forfeit the chance to be you and to love your life. It's
cool. I wrote that. Wow.
Yeah, and looking at your face, it's emotional.
I wrote that to a friend of mine named Marty, and he was, a despicable dad, despicable kind of young life, and he's muscled back from it in a measurable way. And he read AWOL. I had a few guys read it before it went to the publisher, and he had just such great things to say about it. But he asked that question, and I think it's a process. It's not an event. I think there's this risk of posing. And when you read that to me, it's a true statement. It is a powerful day when you recognize you wouldn't trade any of that stuff because you'd risk the chance of not being who you are today and not being able to do what you do. It would be very, very delicate brain surgery. And, I definitely would not have chosen my past. I would have chosen easier ways in some places. But, man, I'm glad I wasn't the one picking.
Yeah, I've heard recently a statement that some kids were raised and some kids were forged. And I think maybe what you're suggesting is that to some degree, most of us were forged. We're forged by those things that got put in our life that, maybe we wouldn't wish on other people or wouldn't love reliving. But those things do contribute to who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I like who I am, but I like a lot. I really like who I am. Mm-hmm. I referenced earlier when I tell my story, I wouldn't wish those things on people I didn't like, but I wouldn't change any of those things about my upbringing because those things made me. I am a compilation of the events, positive statements, not so positive statements, choices, good choices, bad choices. I'm a compilation of those things. It's a recipe that cooked up what I am currently, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things I didn't love and didn't like, but it made me somebody who I really do like. That has the capacity to bring to bear a lot of benefit and blessing to people around me. Mm-hmm. And so this book, I'm extremely excited. I'm about halfway through. Mm-hmm. I'm extremely excited about finishing it. I'm probably going to go through it a couple of times. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to recommend it to some friends, and maybe we'll go book study with some folks about it because I think there's a lot of health that's in here.
I'll end with this. Just be careful. What I would love for you to do, or anyone that reads it, is I'm only going first. Like somebody has got to jump off the cliff into the water to realize that you can do it. No one's going to get their bones broken. You know, I'm just jumping off the cliff and saying, hey guys, like the water's great down here. Like just do it or don't do it. Just jump, right? See through my story and tell your own story. Get those highlights in your story. Get that take it to the grave stuff. You know, be really careful with who you share that with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to share that with somebody who's had their own take it to the grave stuff, because that can be reckless.
Yeah.
And it can be more damaging than anything.
Sure.
Be careful with that. But I'm saying get those high points, and then you recognize, and you start to see the young person that really was imprinted. And this is not my work. This is the work of Terry Real. Terry says that what you need to do is you need to keep the little kid's sticky hands off the steering wheel, the little you, because adults, this is mine, adults are kids in big clothes. Get the kid's sticky hands off the steering wheel and say, you're not driving. Now, I know you're upset, but I've got this. I've got you. This is going to be okay. You know, those kind of conversations, as maybe weird or unfamiliar it is to your audience, when you can start to see that and start to talk like that, know that story, where that kid came from and what he wants, because really what he wants is just for you to be safe. He doesn't want it to happen to you what happened to you before. He's really coming for your good.
There's a great, you're a movie guy. There's a great movie in here about packing around all of the younger versions of yourself and talking to them and protecting them. There's a good movie in here.
Well, there is a really good movie if you want to watch it, if you want to get started on it. It's called The Kid, and it's got Bruce Willis in it. And if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's hilarious. I won't give the book away, the movie away, but his younger self takes up residence in his Malibu mansion, and it's funny and it's insightful and it's powerful.
Wow, TD, you've dropped a lot of.
I feel like we covered nothing that we said we were going to cover, but it's like.
But we covered a lot of
awesome.
things.
We covered a lot.
Yeah, you guys are great, and such great kind of triggers for all this stuff, and you're very curious, and that inspires me.
And I hope that our audience is just at least taking the fire of start looking at your story, start understanding your story. It's just a start. The start, but looking at the value of your story.
Get busy living.
And
Yeah,
we
exactly.
We can use the book AWOL to help foster that spark, and then do MANSCORE to see how you score in life in order to make that move and then apply it. So,
MANSCORE is going to be such a gift to guys, because it's going to give them the scale to step on, because no guy knows what he weighs, and no guy knows where he shows up, let's say, in the score of sacrifice or brotherhood. You know, you said before, you know, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I wanted to tell you that he doesn't need any help. You know,
I love it.
The devil isolates men. And when he isolates you, like if you're captured in war, the first thing he does is he deprives you of sleep. And the second thing he does is he doesn't let you be with your friends. And isn't that happening today? We're deprived of our sleep, and we don't have any friends. Like they say statistically, a guy can't find one guy that he can say he can honestly be intimate with another guy. I mean, it's rare. So I want to help guys score those things, because not only do they not know that it's important, they wouldn't know how to score it if they thought it was important until now.
Would you come back
Tomorrow. Okay. What are you doing this afternoon?
This has been great.
Keep it going.
How do people get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of me? So we are in this cute little studio down in Findlay Market. It's under constant repair. So we're in Cincinnati, Ohio. They can reach me at manscore.co. They can watch our videos on Instagram called Made for More Media. I believe men are made for more. Yeah, and they can email me at info@manscore.co.
And where can they find your book?
It's everywhere. It's really kind of cool, actually, when you see it. I get to go onto Amazon and read. You know, when you see your mom, my mom's passed, but when your mom writes a good review, it's one thing. But when you see guys from other cities write about what you've written and they value it, it's really great. So it's on all online retailers.
And we'll drop some links in.
Would you? Yeah, we'll give you a link to purchase it.
Yeah.
Good.
Guys, thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you,
Thank
TD.
you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us on the
Amen.
Redirect Podcast. Big thanks to the University of Cincinnati's 1819 Innovation Hub for allowing us to use the eSports recording studio to record today's podcast. Catch up on all the Redirect Podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To begin your redirect journey, head over to redirect-u.com. Want to connect with the Redirect team? Feel free to email us at info@redirect-u.com. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.